Tracking error. Look at this please, tracking error. Again a very important theory, tracking error, a very important theory, practically newly introduced. I'm saying it again, practical theory newly introduced, very important, very simple part. I just told you we'll learn after the portfolio because standard deviation formula we learned, so we are learning today. There is no huge difference. I just tell you what tracking error is before I read from here. Now what happens in the tracking error is, for example, the portfolio manager tries to create or tries to follow the benchmark index. Let's suppose a benchmark index Nifty is giving some return. The portfolio manager tries to create similar kind of a portfolio, similar type of a the portfolio, and he tries to replicate the benchmark. That means he wants to get the same return as the benchmark is giving. I can create a benchmark with the Nifty, Bank Nifty. That means I'm creating a similar kind of a portfolio so that my return could be similar to that Nifty or a Bank Nifty or something else. It's a replicating a similar type of a portfolio. If benchmark is giving 10% return, I am giving 10%, I am doing good. If benchmark is giving 8% return, I am giving 8, that means I am giving similar type of return, I am doing good. What is tracking error? Now to put it very simple in a simple language, a batsman goes to play, a batsman or any player, footballer anywhere, and a footballer, batsman, let's take India is a cricket specific country, let's take a cricket example. Batsman, first ball 6, second ball miss, third ball somewhere else, fourth ball somewhere else, no matter, but a batsman hits consistently, he scores runs in every match, consistently every over, every match. That is called skill. But 6, next ball out, sometime 2 sixes, 15 runs, 0, 50, 20, 10, 5, 100, 0, inconsistent. Please understand what I'm saying. Consistency is the most important part. Tracking error tries to check exactly the same way. Is the portfolio manager or fund manager able to get the same return as the benchmark? I'm not saying good or a bad. Benchmark giving return and my portfolio giving same kind of a return, we say tracking error is 0. There is no standard deviation between the difference of both of them. Tracking error is 0. In case benchmark is giving some return, I am deviating from that return higher or lower. That is not my skill. That is basically is happening because maybe my luck. That could be a luck which is happening. Skill is I'm performing. I performed in CPT well. I performed in interval. I performed in final well. That's called skill. CPT, I performed well. IPCC, one group well, one group disaster, final. I do not want to discourage you please, but understand skill is something you are outperforming again and again. And why standard deviation I'm using a word? The lower the standard deviation, is your skill. Higher the standard deviation means fluctuation, difference between them. Tracking error tries to check the return from the benchmark and return from the portfolio, they are deviating or not. If they deviate a much, that is not a skill, but if they do not deviate, that is called a skill. So that is called a tracking error. Tracking error basically is nothing but, if I look at the reading the theory please, tracking error can be defined as the divergence of the deviation of the fund's return from the benchmark return the portfolio manager is trying to follow. Basically I call it as standard deviation of the difference between return of a portfolio and return of benchmark. Don't worry, we'll take some example also. The fund manager closely follows or track the benchmark index. Although they design their investment strategy on the same index, but often it may not exactly replicate the index return. That means they try to replicate what index is giving return, similar type of return I should give. But sometime I might not give the same type of return. And why does it happen? It happens in such a situation, there is deviation of the returns. Higher the tracking error, that means higher is the difference between the fund, higher is the risk profile, whether the fund outperforms or underperforms the benchmark index. Sir, what does it mean? Maybe the fund manager has given you more return, maybe the fund manager has given you the less return. It is not the objective, but you are not following the benchmark, that means you are deviating from the benchmark, is called a tracking error. So what could be the reasons of the error are? It could be a transaction cost, fund expenses, AMC charges, sampling biasness. That means there could be some differences which could be with the fund manager which are not there in the index at all. So there could be some difference. The objective is whatever return my benchmark is giving, I am giving the same kind of a return, I am doing good. If I am not giving that same kind of a return, that means I am not doing good. That is called a tracking error. A very important theory and practical. very important. What practical I am doing in this part of a theory, you can even share with your seniors, those who would have done classes long back. By chance they would have missed out, because this has been really recently introduced in a 6 months back period of a time. So I'm expecting a theory or a practical to come sooner or later from this topic. So portfolio return, benchmark return, how to do a practical, I'll take this small example. Let's put down a small example please on that. Let's put down a small example on that please. Let's put down a small example. I'll take some periods here. Return of a portfolio, return of a benchmark. Let's put down 5 periods. I'll take 2, 3, 4 and 5. Let's put down please. Portfolio return is 11, 3. That's a portfolio giving a return 12, 14 and 8. Benchmark, which manager is trying to replicate, gives a return 12, 5 percentage, 13, 9 and 7. Return of a portfolio, return of a benchmark. 11, 3, 12, 14, 8, 12, 5, 13, 9 and 7. So difference of RP minus RB. RB minus RP. How much it comes? Minus 1, minus 2, minus 1, plus 5, plus 1. Now this difference, some people call it as a different names, active return or X value, whatever you want to call it as. The difference of RP minus RB, that is becomes a X value. That becomes my X value. Standard deviation, everyone knows how to calculate now. If this is my X value, everyone knows how to calculate standard deviation. Standard deviation of the difference between return of a portfolio, return of a benchmark is nothing but tracking error. Standard deviation, if you look at this word, I have written it very clearly. Although there could be a few differences, but from the exam point of view, please do the same way. It's a standard deviation of a difference between return of a portfolio and return of a benchmark. That's it. Standard deviation of a difference between return of a portfolio, return of a benchmark. That means we need to calculate what? We need to calculate mean, then deviation of x, x minus x bar the whole square. Can we calculate that out? Yes, sir. Let's try that out, please. Let's try that out. So first is, this is basically, if I try to put, this is my x value. X bar would be equal to what, sir? X bar was equal to mean. Used to be what? Mean. So I'm trying to see my calculator. You do it, please. Let's calculate, please. Mean. Two. It becomes 0.4. So that becomes 0.4. Comes out my mean. X bar. X bar. Minus 1.4. Minus 2.4. The sum of the deviation has to be what? 0. Please check that out. Yes. Then deviation of x, that's x minus x bar. Basically we used to call it as deviation of x, d square x. Try that out, please. Twenty-one point 16. 21.16. So this becomes d square x, standard deviation. 2.50, 2.50, 2.50. Now, formula given by your institute, which I discussed within portfolio also, please. Actually, I think it is not the formula given by your institute. From wherever they copy pasted right formula. But since entire portfolio is done on this formula, will do by n. If you remember, we used to tell you in case of a sample data, it's n minus 1, n minus 1. But we have never used in the portfolio. My advice would be your institute has copied that OR formula, second formula, because from wherever they copied this formula, summation d square x divided by n minus 1. In exam, please write both the formulas, but I am very sure, I am very sure, since entire portfolio they follow the first formula, they will be following the first formula. Then why second, sir? Because what they have introduced in your material, they have introduced the second formula. And since they have introduced the second formula they have copy pasted from somewhere, and while copy pasting they copy pasted right, actually they copy pasted right. So you give or and both the formulas and write down both the answers. That's a n minus 1. So in exam, please do both of them. 2.79 in exam, 2.79. That's a tracking error. I hope it is not tough, neither challenging. It's basically a difference of a return of a portfolio, return of a benchmark, and standard deviation of that. That's it. That is it. So I assume a practical and theory both important from here. I assume practical and theory both are important from here. So while doing in the or going for the exam, please read that very carefully. Please read that very carefully. Can we move forward?